What's up guys, welcome to Film and TV Reviews. Today I'm reviewing the 2018 version of Halloween. It's 40 years after the original Halloween and Laurie Strode has prepared and trained every day, it seems, for the return of Michael Myers. And guess what? He returns. So, I like this film. This film has problems, but it's fun and entertaining. There are some horror moments which I really quite liked in there. If you're a big fan of the slasher horror genre, I do recommend it. So right off the word go, this is a weird and ridiculous film. It tries to establish itself in a real, believable world. But the problem is with the first 15 minutes, almost everything that happens is just not believable or realistic at all. They go to this asylum or hospital, I don't know the correct terminology, but this hospital and asylum looks like it's meant to drive you mad. The way they've got the patterns on the floor, the way that they have the interviews take place in a courtyard inside the hospital where you're chained to a block, it's just ridiculous. And I don't like how they were constantly referring to Michael Myers as an animal or a monster rather than as like a patient or someone who's troubled or someone who's got mental health issues or whatever. They're constantly trying to imbue some sort of supernatural powers or abilities on Michael Myers. And I know that they've done that before in Halloween, but for me, that's just, get rid of that. It just ruins the character for me. But again, this is mainly just in the first like 15 minutes. Once that moves on, it becomes almost a remake or a reboot of the original Halloween. It's almost step by step exactly the same as the original, with a few little differences here and there. And that's not a bad thing, because it is fun, it is enjoyable. The problem with it being a bit of a remake and a reboot is that it is predictable. It is a slasher film, it is a horror film. You've seen these films before, so there's nothing really being thrown at you that you haven't seen before, nothing really surprising. Perhaps some of the deaths might surprise you, but then chances are you know who's going to be dead by the end. I know I certainly did. In fact, there's only one person in this whole film who I believe survived the end of this film, and I didn't expect that. And the only reason it survived is because halfway through the film they're just gone. So, story, fun, but predictable, very entertaining. And it does get better as it goes along as well. Although, I'm a little annoyed by the ending, but I'll get into spoilers later on. So to talk about the characters, the main character is Laurie Strode. It is Jamie Lee Curtis from the original Halloween and numerous other Halloween movies. She's great. She's the best thing in the film by far. Puts a lot of emotion, a lot of depth into the character. She's very much a kind of Sarah Connor version of Laurie Strode this time around. She is action-packed, she is gunning for Michael Myers, quite literally at times. So the problem with the characters is the side characters and almost everyone else in the film, except for Jamie Lee Curtis, except for Will Patton and Michael Myers. They're all stereotypical, they're all pretty one note, they're all annoying and not believable at all. Especially the podcast makers or the investigators. I'm not quite sure what their job is, but they're just ridiculous. There's also the doctor character who has this weird like Eastern European accent, I want to say, and he looks like he's ripped from a completely different film. He's really just out of place in this altogether. He's annoying and frustrating at times, not at all realistic. I've already touched on Michael Myers. They do give him some sort of supernatural elements, but it's not like he's got these big powers or anything. It's just more suggested, so it is believable to an extent. I just wish they treat him more like a human rather than as an animal or a monster as they repeatedly refer him to. The characters are annoying, which of course when they end up dying it makes it a bit more gratifying. Pretty much every character you see in this film does die, by the way. Well, yeah, I'm not going to say who lives and who survives, but you know who's going to die. You know the very moment you see them they're going to die. I mentioned earlier there's only really one character who survives, it seems, and that's simply because they vanish. But yeah, this film is full of stereotypes, full of typical slasher horror film characters, and that's not a bad thing because that's exactly what this film's trying to be. In terms of production, I think the lighting and the framing of certain shots is really well done. The lighting adds to the horror element, there's good use of shadows, light and darkness. There are certain shots where something's happening in the foreground, but then you've got to actually pay attention to what's happening in the background as well, because there could be a character walking by doing something that's might not be significant or important at that moment, but will be later on. And I really like how that's done. It means there's constantly something going on, it's constantly interesting, and it makes you watch and look out for things. I think the film's well paced, but it's not too fast, it's not too slow, it constantly builds up, and it's only like an hour 40 minutes long, which is all these films need to be, so that's well done. The editing's quite good as well. There's a particular shot that tries to mimic a scene from the original movie, where it's a single long take through a small suburban cul-de-sac area, I suppose you would call it, where he's going in and out of houses, killing people, he's picking up items, and the camera's just moving down the street to follow him as he's going in and out of each house and doing his things. It's really quite well done. But, that being said, we have had things like that in The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix this year, which kind of puts this to shame because it is a little on the basic side in comparison, but it's still well done whenever this sort of thing happens. The score is by John Carpenter, who directed the original. Brilliant score, really good score. John Carpenter is a really underappreciated musician as far as I'm concerned. Some of the most iconic scores and pieces of music in film history, I would say, and this one, just really good. I don't think he did it on his own, so I can't give him all the credit, but he was like the main person responsible, I believe. One of the most interesting and notable things about this Halloween movie is one of the writers is Danny McBride, and you can totally tell that Danny McBride was involved in the making of this film. Danny McBride is one of these comedy actors, writers who you either love or you hate. Personally, I like him. I've liked some of his stuff like Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals. It's very crude and crass humor at times, and Danny McBride writing this film, you can totally see it because this film does have comedic moments, it does have comedic beats, and it is funny at times. The problem is that the funny bits, the humor, feels out of place and it makes the film tonally odd. So you've got this really serious slasher murderer going around, and then all of a sudden you're just seeing two cops having this argument about a sandwich. It's odd, and it's more disruptive than anything else. It doesn't need to be there, I don't think, at times. As it makes the film kind of confusing. I'm never sure if it's meant to be taken this seriously. I'm never sure if it's meant to be a bit of a spoof or a parody, a bit like Scary Movie maybe. But yeah, the comedy's there's never too much of it, so that's a good thing. It is only here and there. And again, it is pretty decent humor. It's just sometimes not really feeling like it should be there. So that's my spoiler-free review of Halloween 2018. I liked it. It does have problems, but I think it's a good, fun, entertaining movie, and I'm interested to see where the franchise goes from here. But I hope you've liked it. I do recommend it. I'm Grant Burton. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant Burton. Or you could subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, some feedback down below. Let me know what you thought of Halloween. And share this across social media. Help me build my audience. Let your friends know about this, because if you don't like this, they might. But that's all I've got to say about Halloween. Non-spoilers though, because now I'm going at the spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie. Come back and watch the end of this. Full spoilers. So let's talk about the ending. The ending, the house burns down and Michael Myers never seen again. It's assumed, kind of, maybe not, that he's burnt down in the house because we don't see him escape the house. We know he's locked in the basement, we know it's on fire. But let's face it, they're building up to a sequel here. So very smart of them to not show us Michael Myers actually dying, but hey, it's a franchise film, you know you've got to establish that sequel, but it does mean it's a little frustrating at the end and a little predictable. So one of the things that this film establishes is that Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, is obsessed with Michael Myers. She's been planning and preparing for his return for 40 years now, and the characters are constantly referring to this, how she's wasted her life, how she's been truly obsessed with this, and yet one thing bugged me about this is that how obsessed could she have been, because she has started a family. She has had a daughter, she has had grandchildren, she is mingling with them, she is socializing with them. So how obsessed could she possibly be? It doesn't sound like it's that bad. Although if you look at the house, yes, it is full of traps and hidden rooms and so on. So yeah, maybe she has taken it a little too far, but it doesn't look like it's actually running her life. So throughout the film, Michael Myers kills a lot of people, as expected. One of the things that I noticed is that he seems to be picking and choosing who he's killing at times. Sometimes he's just killing whoever's in his way, whatever they're doing, it doesn't matter who they are. But other times, he's like not that fussed about them. So for example, he kills this young boy pretty early on in the film, and this boy I think is meant to be about like 10, maybe early teens, I don't know, maybe a little younger even, and he kills him, breaks his neck. But then later on, there's a baby crying, and he just looks at it and walks away. So I don't quite understand why he's willing to kill a boy, but he's not willing to kill a baby. Like, I'm glad he didn't kill the baby. I think that might have been going a little too far for the sake of the film. But yeah, they never really delve into what his overall goal is, or what his morals are, or anything. Again, they just keep referring to him as a monster or an animal, and it's annoying. Especially when it's the doctor who keeps referring to him as that as well. Speaking of younger people in the film, there is another kid in the film, and probably one of the best characters in the film as well, I would say. He's not in it very long, but he is being babysat by one of the main characters who ends up dead. Where did that character go? Where did the young kid go? He ran away and is never seen from again. Yeah, it's a minor thing, I realise that, but hey, that kid is still out there somewhere. He was meant to be getting babysat, and no one seems to check on him or anything. Maybe I've just missed something out. Maybe they did actually find him and he's in the background somewhere again. I don't know. But another person who kind of just is there is the father figure of Laurie's granddaughter. And, well, I suppose it's her son-in-law. He's an annoying character, constantly making these jokes that aren't funny. But he ends up dead, and no one bats an eyelid. Yep, you'd think a pretty significant person in all of their lives, and he's dead, he dies, they watch, I think Laurie watches him die, and yeah, no one asks about him, no one looks for him, no one is worried about him. Yeah, it's odd. And there's a lot of stuff like that in this where people are dying in brutal ways and people just go, and then walk away. Yeah. But that's kind of all I've got to say about Halloween. I liked the film. I liked a lot of things about the film. But there are some slasher horror genre tropes in here which make it a little frustrating and annoying at times. I just wish they were being a bit more original with it, a bit more realistic with it at times. But yeah, the whole rigmarole. Follow me Twitter, Instagram, subscribe, yada yada yada. That's all I've got to say. So thanks for watching.